Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request, this time from iLividian1. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both things are down below in the info box. And this is for a comparison between I Spit in Your Grave from 1978 and Revenge, which I guess in some places is called I Am Vengeance. And some say 2017, some say 2018. Take your pick. Which do I like better? Because they're both rape revenge movies. You have a woman gets raped, and she's got to hunt down this group of people that assaulted her. Now, I'm not a fan of I Spit in Your Grave. I know that the title is very memorable, and it's a film that definitely caused a lot of controversy when it came out, understandably so. I had the DVD, I still have it, only because of the Joe Bob Briggs commentary, because I like hearing him talk about the history of movies and that time period. That's the only reason I have it. It's not for the movie itself. I would easily say I enjoyed this film much more. Now, for one, it felt like this character was a bit more proactive. Now, here's the thing. You just say that this film, I'm going to say that, I mean this film, is much more stylistic. Maybe it's not as, quote, maybe it's more unrealistic, as you could say, compared to I Spit in Your Grave. It's much more stylistic. I mean, the way she falls off a cliff, gets impaled in a way that most people would die from, gets off of it, crawls, and then heals herself with really like a beer can that she heats up and does a bit of John Rambo in terms of medicine. But I loved it. No, not just because I thought the makeup effects were really well done, but I just really got into the whole style, feel, look of the movie. It's a really good looking film. And maybe people will like I Spit in Your Grave because it's much more simple in terms of rough, primal, that lower 70s budget quality, where it seems much more of a rougher show, much more of a rougher ordeal. That it's, how do I put it, down and dirty. Because I Spit in Your Grave is much more down and dirty, and it's not a lot of bells and whistles on it. So maybe people would prefer that film. But that one, like, the lead actress wasn't bad in it. But it seemed like it took a while for it to get going. And then when the assault happens, it just goes on for way too long. I swear it's like 25 or so minutes where one person attacks her and rapes her, then she goes, then another person, then she goes, then she gets in somewhere and someone shoves a bottle. It just got to a point where, to me, the idea of it is horrifying enough. That's just how I look at it. The idea of just the word is horrifying to me enough, because it's a terrible, awful thing. I think anyone who does that deserves a bullet to the head until they are dead. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't give a fuck about what your backstory, I don't give a fuck about what your history is, I don't give a fuck about what happened to you. You did that, you die. That's the way I look at it. And it's an awful, terrible, shitty thing. So when it's incorporated into movies, I'm like, the idea itself, I'm already... I get what you're going at. And to me, a little goes a long way, because, like, we already know how horrifying it is, and just the idea of it sells the illusion for me. The idea, the principle, the act itself, I can already imagine in my mind how horrible it is. So when you lengthen it out to 20, 25 minutes, it honestly, I hate to say, it gets repetitive and tedious. I might hope she goes to number one. Then she goes to number two. It's like a game show. A game show version of rape. That's why I spin your grave. What's behind door number one? In the woods. What's behind number two? It's a bottle. Here's door number three. Another one. Another dick. And another dick. It just got... It got repetitive. It got boring. I know it's meant to be horrifying. But again, it could be as long as you want. It's still going to be horrifying. That's my point. If it's 1 second long or 10 minutes long, it's still horrifying. I'm not more horrified because the whole act ordeal is horrifying to begin with. I don't know if that makes sense how I'm wording it. The idea itself is horrifying. So whether it's off screen 1 second or 10 minutes or 25 minutes, I'm still at the same horrified level because it's still horrifying bullshit that people have done. It's happened to men as well as women. And like I'll feel the same with people being assaulted in Shawshank Redemption. Same with I Spend Your Grave. It was just too long and too extended. It's not the longest movie either, so the fact that's like 25 minutes, that's a good chunk of it. I know the idea is to make that so long so that her revenge seems justifiable. No, even if it was 2 seconds, in my eyes, it would have been... The revenge would have been justifiable. If you do it, you did. So I guess it's just my own mentality on that. This didn't have a fucking 25, 30 minute scene. He did enough of it to, once again, realize the horrifying bits of the situation. Also, you could say it's unrealistic. I can get your point. On the flip side, there have been people surviving weirder, more crazy injuries. There's stories of people falling off a whole couple stories of a building yet somehow surviving. So it's always one of those things that weirder things have happened in reality. Bullets ricochet and bounce off people's heads because they used the wrong caliber bullet. That was a story I heard. I forget what the gun was, but it bounced it off, and because it was a more powerful gun, it would have killed the guy, but instead just bounced off the damn head. Or someone shot and the fucking bullet bounced off, when if higher caliber, it would have gone straight through. Weird shit has happened. 50 Cent got shot how many? 18 times? How many? And he survived? So, my point is crazier shit has happened. So I'll go along with it. I still prefer that as to how she gets away from the bad guys than I Spit in Your Grave, where they went through this ordeal for 25, 30 minutes, and then they let the guy who's mentally handicapped, you finish her off, and then they just believe him? Hell, that felt like more of a stretch to me than in this movie. Her falling and the injury. You don't let a mentally handicapped guy to go over there and you finish the job, and none of you are going to watch, none of you are going to study to make sure he does it. Not even one of you. Hey, go watch him, see if he actually does it. And if he doesn't, you take the gun, you finish the job. No, they'll just let him go by himself. They're over here. You did, huh? And they walk away. They don't even confirm that there's a body. They don't confirm it. You think also we'll take the body and bury it? Or burn it? Or something? No. So even if he did it, you just don't leave the body? Very weird off, just to be not the best of writing in that whole bit. And then the girl just hangs around the town, and you think people would, it seems like it takes time for her to plan this. She would have to go into town to get groceries, right? To get groceries and shit, and if she did, then people would know she's around, or something, I don't know. And that word would get back to our attackers. And the revenge is like, okay, here's the mentally handicapped guy. Come on, I'm gonna hang you. The one guy, he cuts his dick off in the bathtub. And it's weird because they don't save the main leader for the end. They leave some of the group, the kind of, it's like leaving the henchman for your finale in an action movie and not the main villain. It's like, that's kind of weird. It would be like, okay, I love Hard Target. If Sven Thorson with the cigar and sorry about the shirt, if he was the last guy remaining for Van Damme to fight and not Lance Henriksen, that's a bit weird. That's what it felt like the end of Spit in Your Grave. It's like, okay, it's not the mentally handicapped guy that kind of got you fucked over. It's not the leader. It's this guy. I'm trying to remember if he was the one with the bottle and shoved it up her and that's why she left him for last. And the way it ends is just like this boat, and then he for some reason grabs onto the propeller of the boat like this. Just that's how you always did on a boat. You always did on a boat, and here's the propeller, and you just bear hug the propeller. There's all this stuff on a boat, so here's this big blade. Let me put my chest right on the blade when I'm talking to a girl who you raped. It's very smart. It just felt like kind of a meh ending. Unlike this, where I felt the progression of the story was much more exciting, much more visceral. I did some may like the down and dirty aspect look of I Spit in Your Grave, but I, in this, prefer the stylistic look, the landscape, scenes like when she takes the drug and she has these visions, including the guy finding her and blowing her head off. You go, oh shit. And some say that was a CGI shot of her head explosion. It looked practical to me. Or at least there were some practical elements to it. Maybe CGI additions, but it looked like there was some practical elements to it, which I thought looked pretty good. And then she wakes up. Between the actresses, I thought she did a little bit better acting-wise than, I forget her name, was it Camille Keaton? God, I forget. I apologize. I'm bad. But Matilda Lutz here, I liked her performance. I like the stylistic look of it more. I thought, again, the incident, I don't think it needed to be 25 minutes long. I thought it was much more well-paced in this. You get the idea the same way, but the movie doesn't deviate for this. As I we don't do this to let people know we exist instead of, making a movie. And then the revenge aspect just seemed more satisfying, much more bloody, much more visceral in his bloodiness. You definitely see a lot more, whether it be the one guy who's running and he steps on glass and he's looking at his foot and he's got to take this big piece of glass out of the foot and you see all the blood and the glass affecting the skin. Or the girl getting this big fuck-off gun to shoot the guy when he's passing by in the vehicle. And then the finale, in the I Spit in Your Grave on the boat just seemed very lackluster. It's like, wait, that's the last guy she's going after? And again, not the leader or the mentally handicapped guy? Or who are the more prominent characters? And that's why I say it. They were the more prominent of the villains. Those two were the more prominent, and they're the ones dispatched earlier. Then it just felt like kind of a weird way to end it. And again, the boat stuff just... It felt like the ending of the film... Okay, if you don't end that Spit in Your Grave, it should have been the leader be the last. She cuts his dick off in the bathtub. And then the scene where she sits in the chair, plays a record, leans back, and the camera pulls back. She listens to the music that drown out the guy screaming, and credits. That seemed like the more proper way to end that film. The idea is, hey, the boat, it shows that she's going forward, she's moving on. I can understand that, but... I don't know. Here, No, the guy that got her in a situation in the first place. See if I get the actor's name, if I can remember. Yeah, her wealthy boyfriend. Can't remember the actor's name. They have this big old bloody chase around the rich ass place he owns in the middle of nowhere, and she wounds him with the gun, and he's bleeding out, and it's paint the walls red, literally, and they're both at this cat mouse chase, with both having weapons and going back and forth, and he gets her, but then she ripping a bit of his wound out and blasts his ass away. Just much more of a crowd pleasing, yeah, than kind of the lackluster, and I spit on your grave. So again, one, it depends which style you want. I prefer the more colorful cinematography, much better looking movie. I don't mind the acting in I Spit on Your Grave, but I thought the acting in this by the lead, Matilda Lutz, was a bit better. I thought the revenge aspect was much more bloody, much more satisfying. I thought the pacing in this seemed a lot more quicker. It felt like it moved because it didn't have to stop for a 25-30 minute assault scene. We got enough of that to be horrified, and the story continues. Saving the main villain that he has come up as for the final end, to me, makes more sense as a story, as a flowing, as a thorough flow of the story that just made more sense logically to me. To save the worst for last, or the more important guy for last, I should say, because it's all worst. Honestly, they all suck, but saving the most important guy for last. And some may look at this as a feminist movie, but I thought this was, if that's the case, I thought this was actually a good version of that. Because there are scum suckers like this, but at the same time, I didn't feel he was telling me that all men are bad. It's just these pieces of trash were bad. And sadly, they do exist. So, it's like, I didn't feel like it was telling me every man is an awful person. It's just these pieces of trash were awful people. So, I easily take revenge over I spit on your grave, I shit on your spleen, I puke in your gullet, I fart in your direction, what the fuck else? Again, the only reason I have that movie is because Joe Bob Bird's commentary. This I could watch and still enjoy to this day. In fact, maybe one day I will rewatch, because I knew enough of the film to remember this. Yeah, it says Revenge 2018 on here. I forgot Shudder had a thing to do with this. Shudder, that channel. But yeah. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again. Bye bye.